Hi, cozy people. So, you know how sometimes you fall into these dark spirals and you just get lost in this pit of sadness and badness? That happens to me, and I do fall down those, but I also very commonly fall down like a happy spiral or a good spiral. And I've always been very affected by quotes. And I saw one a few months ago where someone said, as you get older, you realise that every stage of life is the good old days. And I'm getting I'm getting tachycardic already.
So yeah, this comment said something like, as you get older, you realise that every stage of life is the good old days.
And I was in a stage of life that was arguably quite bad. I had been living out of boxes for a few months, and more than that, actually, I was in a really bad living situation. And I was living out of boxes because I kept getting moving dates every few days and they kept being pushed back for months and months. It was just a bad situation. And I read this comment that said, every stage of life is the good old days. And I thought, is it? And I just thought, yeah, I think it is. And I just went down this spiral, and I thought I would tell you how this spiral went for me, and I'm hoping that it can trigger a happiness spiral for you, and that there will be some of these things that you'll relate to and you'll be like, oh my gosh, yeah, that is the good old days for you. Or you can look back at times in your life that you didn't realize there was good there. So I don't know if I've done it, but my thinking for this title was going to be something like, every stage of life is the good old days. Trust me, I was homeless, because I was legally homeless for a period in my life. And actually, I was aware that there was good during this time,
Like, it was horrifying. I was around people with knives and the police, and like, there was so much going on.
but there was also good. And so, whilst homeless, it was the good old days because, yes, I was homeless, but all my grandparents were alive and they were at the end of the phone. And I didn't actually realise this at the time. Like, I didn't realise my grandparents were as good with using their phones as they are. But they were alive and I was seeing them every Christmas. Not as much as I would have liked, but they were happy and well even when I couldn't see them. And just the comfort of knowing that was something I took for granted and at the same time didn't. I knew I was grateful, so grateful to have them. And I lost one of my grandparents that during that time when I was homeless, and that was really difficult too, but I also of course appreciated the ones I had, and also all of the rest of the family I had. So yeah, there was that, which was just like knowing that my family were safe and well. That was a huge thing. And then also at the second homeless shelter, I made friends there. And this is one of those things where sometimes you do have to find the joy for yourself and create the joy for yourself. And so I was always just very friendly. I can't shut up, basically. I'm a chatterbox. And so I was chatting to people I was there. And I remember I had one conversation with a couple of people who were sort of obsessed with my hamster that I had with me. And it sounded like they were trying to get me in trouble. Like, you have a hamster here, we're not allowed pets here. And they was really digging at this thing. And I thought, I'm not going to get in trouble over this because I'm allowed my hamster here. And so I got her out the cage. I let them like see her through the window, like it was completely safe. Like, they didn't hold my hamster, but I just thought they probably haven't seen a pet in a long time. So yeah, they really enjoyed seeing her. And then the next week they came back to my window with some little frogs, and they said they had these pet frogs and they'd been scared to tell the people there. I don't know, I just made this little friendship with these people. Turned out one of those people was on bail from prison, and I don't know much about the prison system. I know that, you know, prison isn't a good thing per se, but my experience with these people was nothing but good. And even that conversation where they were sort of digging about what was going on with me and the hamster, I just was having a friendly conversation about it. And I thought, even if they do tell on me, it's fine because I'm allowed to have her. So I didn't really worry about it. My whole point is, I had friends there because I made friends there. The first place I was at was very different because there were groups of people that were friends, but I just couldn't slot into that in the same way. But it was okay because that place was a lot more
Quiet. It's difficult to put it into words. I had a broken window, so there was fights and domestic abuse outside this window. And this is what I mean. Through these stages of my life, I was homeless, so this was a bad time.
But even though I had that sometimes going on outside the window, actually, that homeless shelter was the calmest place I had lived in the past couple of years. It went downhill from there about where my places were, what they were like in terms of how chaotic they were. And I did appreciate the calm there. I don't know how to put it into words, like it was so much more calm than the other places, even though it was, of course, not calm, relative speaking. But I still appreciated that. As I'm going through this, I'm now thinking, I don't know if this is coming across in the way I want it to, but like I just want to show you that there will be really bad stages of life, but you can still find little good things about them. So like at the homeless place, a lot of my loved ones were alive, and if you think about right now, like everyone you've got in your life, you're never going to have like those people there in the future. I'm not saying you're never going to have this many people in your life again, because you will. Like life moves forward and you're always making new connections and things like that. And also people live a really long time, so I know we have a lot of fears about losing people, but actually most people live long lives and we have people for many years. But anyway, so moving on to the next bad situation, which is the housing situation that a lot of you will know that I lived in. I wrote down that my good things, number one was my best friend. Now, me and this friend, we'd been friends for maybe like a year, and then just something clicked and we became best friends and we started calling several times a week. And it just built and built where we got to the point where we could be on the phone for hours on an audio call and just live our life on the phone with each other. So like when we had times that we both were alone but wanted company, or like we weren't well enough to go out and we were just unwell in bed and we were barely well enough to talk, we have this friendship where we can just be on the phone together. She's my only friend that I've been asleep on the phone to her about 4 times, maybe 5 times, which to be honest isn't that many considering we call a few times a week. And she just lets me do it. And it actually happened a couple days ago where I just wasn't well enough to speak, and she said to me, "Are you going to sleep?" And I started laughing and I was like, "No, I'm just really not feeling well." And I was just laughing because even if I was going to sleep, there was no judgment from her. The thing is, when you're unwell, sometimes you're like drifting in and out of sleep. Like we both can go into that sort of state, and and that happens. There was one time that was really funny. I wasn't going to tell this story, but there was one time that I could feel myself having a migraine.
I don't know how to talk about these migraines because it's not a migraine like I used to experience with the blindness and everything. It's a different form of migraine now.
And I wasn't well enough to speak to her, so I wasn't talking to her, but we were both like on the phone. She was doing whatever she was doing. I was there, like I just started slipping into this migraine. I couldn't speak, so I let her know. We just stayed on the phone. Then I fell asleep, and once I fell asleep, my body was obviously like healing, and me and one of my siblings can both sleep talk, but I make sense and I've given her lots of good advice. So I went from being too unwell to speak, falling asleep, and then once I was asleep, my body was obviously doing better and I started talking to her and giving advice. And then I woke up and told her, and she was like, "It's the second time I've done that. I've given her good advice and I'm asleep." And I just think that's so funny. But anyway, I'm so grateful. Like I've always wanted a friendship like that, where it's more like sisters and we're so close and like ridiculously close that we can do the stuff that we do. Like I never thought I would have a friendship like this. Me and my best friends are, I'm really close with all of them, but I don't speak to them often. I've never had a friendship who's been, I don't know, I've just not had one like this before. And it doesn't mean that I'm not as close to the other people. It's just different. It's just really nice. And I love this one. So whilst all that bad housing stuff was going on and the living out of boxes on top of that, I had this best friend and like I've loved every second of it. It's been so amazing. And then I've also put, I wasn't sure if I was going to include this because I don't talk about this sort of stuff really. So also during the bad housing stage, I was seeing someone for a few months, and I've written in my notes that it was fun and it was exciting it was nice while it lasted, and this is why I don't talk about it. It's so awkward. Like, I don't even talk about it with people in my real life, but I'm very grateful for that time, and I'm grateful that I was open to it and they were open to it. And yeah, didn't end up falling in love with him, but I had a lot of positive experiences towards myself. I don't know how to put it into words, like, and them as well. Like, it was great with them as well. They just weren't the one, basically. But actually, I'm really grateful for that time. Yeah, we'll leave it as that. Really grateful for that time, and I'm happy with it. And that's the thing, like, the outcome, I was going to say it wasn't the outcome I wanted, but actually it was the right outcome. And yeah. And then also during that time, I'll put up a card about that living situation for anyone that wants to know about it. I also had, what in the world was that? Past me knew it was the neighbours, you know it's the neighbours, and present me also knows it's the neighbours. So we're all clear on that. So during this time when I was living out of the boxes, I knew I was going to move. I was very fearful about the new place. I was full of dread. I was losing a lot of things and giving up a lot of things. At that flat, I was closer to friends and family. I was closer to... We'll just carry on. My shoulder is actually really hurting. I was closer to my pets. Yeah, there was a lot of good things about that flat. And also, I wanted to say that even though I was closer to a lot of things, I wasn't well enough to get out most of the time, and other people weren't free, and actually it didn't really match up anyway, so it felt like I was losing more than I was. And I was giving all of that up, so I was so fearful and so full of dread, but I was also, above all of that, so full of hope. Then maybe we could go into this stage of life, and in this stage of life I know that a lot of those hopes didn't come true for this place, and I've done a video about that as well. Yeah, a lot of those hopes really did not come true for this place, but life goes on, and as it is in every other stage of life, I've found things that I really enjoy. So I'm really excited to decorate this place. I know that this is, at least for now, this is where I'm staying. There are no other options, so I can get stuck in with decorating it. I found a YouTube channel that I absolutely love, their home interiors, and I'm using it as inspiration. But the way that I look forward to these videos, I feel like I'm a 13-year-old child looking forward to a Zoella video. Like, a lot of people will have this nostalgia around the OG YouTubers. Do you know what I'm talking about?
If you know, you know. There was like a group of, I guess, teenagers in my day used to get so excited for these YouTube videos, and the whole like thing around YouTubers was so exciting and fun.
I feel that, like, for these few YouTube channels that I've found, they're about home interiors, but it doesn't matter, like, because that's the stage of life I'm in, and that's what's exciting to me right now. I guess it's a nostalgic feeling. Like, I feel like I'm a teenager again looking forward to YouTube videos, and I'm really enjoying that. I've also recently been getting into makeup. I've got a couple of things to show you, so I don't know, it's just that, like, teenage thing of being into makeup. That was like one of my hobbies. I've been getting back into those teenage hobbies is what I'm talking about. So I'm very into, at the moment, TikTok trends for makeup, because that's kind of what it used to be like on YouTube. These products would blow up and you'd get really excited about it. I've been doing that again, but on TikTok. So this is, it sounds so silly to talk about, doesn't it? This is literally just like a powder puff, but the way they talked about it, like, as being revolutionary and gonna like change your whole face, I was so like excited for this. I couldn't wait. So I got that. And then in this stage of life, I'm very rapidly losing my hair. So I've been putting up photos of it in the milder stages where it looks like this and like this. We're now at the point where we've reached, I'm not going to put a percentage on it, but I've lost a lot of hair, and it's going so quickly. I'm losing my hair. So I've bought this, which is like a massive eyeshadow. Now, it is not fun to be losing your hair, but since I'm on this makeup trend anyway, where I'm really finding makeup exciting again, I just thought, why not get the hair involved? This can be part of the like creativity and my excitement of trying new things, and it's forced me to try new hairstyles. I don't think I've had my hair like this before. In fact, I've probably had my hair in the same like part scraped back hairstyle for the past like 5 or 6 years on YouTube, and I wish I wasn't having to find new hairstyles. I wanted to carry on with the one that I had, but I like the way that I've not really had an interest in makeup for the past like 5, 6 years, and now when I suddenly have, I don't know, it sort of all links, and I just think now is as good a time as any. And one of my best friends is actually losing her hair, a lot of her hair as well, and I feel like we're in it together. And actually there is no, I was going to say there is no good time, but there is. The good time is now. And also the way that I think about my friend and the way that I'm talking to her about her hair loss is so healing for me, because I can just take those things on board. I'm saying things to her that I wouldn't have thought about, to reassure and say to myself. And yeah, I feel like we're in it together. And anyway, let's move on to the next stage of life. So this is a stage of life I probably should have started with, which was childhood. I don't know where to go into this. I had an abuser in my childhood who was someone very, 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 very close to me. I had a very bad level of abuse in my childhood, but there were still good times even then. I'm aware that this video is so incredibly long, so I'm just going to have to try and rattle things off now. And this is the point where I've run out of notes and I wish I had notes. So good things in my childhood was that I loved school. I loved a lot of things about it. I loved my friends, and I loved the work. Actually, I was always very grateful to be going to school. I really enjoyed school. I loved learning about things. I remember at school I used to get such a high off of getting good grades. Like, I literally got such a thrill out of school, and I know not everyone did. And some people probably felt a lot more supported at home, whereas for me the support came from school. Teachers, I got a lot of praise at school, and I did very well off of that, and I felt like I could be myself. As time went on, I got more and more into it, and I had a couple of comments of people saying I was like Hermione sticking my hand up, and that I was just so ridiculously excited to tell an answer, and that it was weird. And I just thought, I'm just living my best life. Like, I'm just enjoying knowing the answers. I just can't wait to say the answer. And I know I was so annoying, and like the Hermione comment, yeah, I mean, I was annoying, but I was just living my best life. And that's the thing, like, I just found fun where I could. And for me, that was something that I found fun. For other people, you know, that could have been their home life, but it wasn't mine. And so I found a lot of fun at school. Me and one of my friends really enjoyed our woodwork class, and it didn't exist. There wasn't a woodwork after school club, so we created one, and it was just us who went, and we just stayed after school a lot of the time and did these woodwork. We just made stuff out of wood. And we really enjoyed that. I don't think that friend needed the escapism, but for me, it was escapism from home. But it was also just me being a child doing something fun. Like, we called it Wood Tech Club. And the only two people that went were us. Like, I really enjoyed that. I don't know. And I think what it comes down to is like romanticizing your life, isn't it? Like, that's all it is. It's literally just like romanticizing your life. And I know that's easier said than done, but I've always done that with things. I remember in my maths class, didn't like maths. I found it really hard, even though I was good at it. So I sat at the front of the class with my two best friends, and we loved working on things together. I don't know how it was fun when I didn't like the subject. I also had a very different, like, my brain works in a very weird way, and I'd often get the answer just in this weird way, and my friends used to find it hilarious, and we used to laugh about that. But the thing I was actually going to get at was that in this class, I remember it was winter, and we had the seats at the front of the class next to the radiator. And I remember saying to them, every time we come into this class, I imagine us being tucked up in bed, because the desk and the radiator was like really warm, cozy little corner with my two best friends. And I just said, I feel like we're all just like camped out in some sort of little bed together, and like we're just solving these problems, but it's not maths, it's like a quiz or like a puzzle, that's a better word. I was like, I feel like we're just having, like, we're all at a sleepover doing these like puzzles together in our cozy warm little fort. That's how I felt in my maths classes.
I had another memory come into my head then. What was it? I really wanted to say it.
Oh yeah, I've remembered. This is something that I never told anyone, but this romanticising life thing, I guess I have always done it. And I've not talked about it because it paints a very different picture to what my life was actually like. But I had a nickname for each of the places I lived at. One of my homeless shelters was a very tiny room with a kitchen in it, and it looks a bit like a kitchen with a bed in it. And then it had a tiny cubicle toilet, but it was just a very small room, and I nicknamed that one the log cabin, and that's where I wrote my book. And it was chaos because I was crammed in this tiny space and I couldn't leave the space, and it was so cluttered and chaos. But it also wasn't, because it was so small, I couldn't really tidy up, and that simplified things because there was no keeping on top and tidying this space because it was too cluttered to do so. And I couldn't leave the place, it wasn't water accessible, so I was just stuck there day in, day out. And that's when I thought, okay, I'm going to write my book. I'm going to pretend that I'm in like a log cabin in the woods. That's why it's so small, because I'm in a log cabin, and I'm going to dive into my book. That was my idea. However, when I did dive into my book, I realised I wasn't like seeing the log cabin I was picturing. I was actually seeing the world of my book. And so I spent most of my time in that homeless shelter inside my book world, writing my book. And I guess I just made my own world that time. And like now it's very difficult for me to write the book because I've got more space now. I'm doing normal things. I'm seeing friends a bit more. Not often. Maybe sometimes it's only once every 3 months. Sometimes it's twice a month. But I am seeing people now more than I was. I've got more space that I'm having to keep tidy. My life is busier and I'm not able to dive into that book world anymore. But I'm grateful that I had that time and that I did. So anyway, that place was the log cabin. My old place that I lived at, it was extremely old, and that's why I had the issues with the sound problems, because it was just so old before sound laws were passed. And that's the video here that I talked about how horrific that place. I called that place the cottage in my head, and I used to look at everything and think it's so old and run down because it was just a cottage. And there were places, like parts of the cottage, that I tried to make cozy, and there were other parts of the cottage that I just had to shut a door on, like these cupboards that I'm showing, because they were just horrible. And like I wasn't well enough to do them up, so I called that place the cottage. But this video is super long. But yeah, I wanted to share this, and I hope something sparked a tiny happy spiral for you. And I hope this helps you see things in a different way. It might not. Maybe you just sat and listened to my story instead. In which case, I hope it wasn't too depressing. I hope you could see the moments of joy like I could. There are always moments of joy. I think there are things I left off, like when I was in the homeless place, at one of them, there was also my friend from university living in that town, and I saw him. And as I was saying about the people in your life, think about everybody who's in your life right now, and like you're so grateful for that and you just take it for granted. But then going forward in life, you're also going to meet new people and you're going to be okay, is the thing. That person was probably in their 80s or something who wrote that. He said, every stage of life is the good old days. And so it is. And so we'll make it be, and we'll all be okay. If this stage of life isn't the good old days for you, I hope the next one will be, or if not, the one after that. Stay and see how it goes. Even if it's just to see how it goes, just stay and see how it goes. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.